shock and outrage. Church leaders condemn the killing of an elderly French priest who was celebrating morning mass. Cheers and jeers at the Democratic National Convention. Bernie Sanders tries to unite his followers behind Hillary Clinton. Legal victory. A judge sides with pro-life activists who went undercover to expose Planned Parenthood. And pilgrims arrive in Poland amid heavy security for the start of World Youth Day. Those stories and more on EWTN News Nightly for Tuesday, July 26, 2016. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Brian Patrick. ISIS claims responsibility for the murder of a French priest as he celebrated morning mass today. This is the first attack by the terrorist group inside a Western church. Wyatt Goolsby joins us with more. Wyatt?
Brian, French President Francois Hollande calls this a vile terrorist attack and another sign that his country is at war with ISIS. He also says it's not just an assault on France's Catholics, but on all the French. A somber morning for the French president as he thanks police and residents in the small Normandy town of Saint-Étienne-du-Rouvray. Investigators say two men entered the church, taking hostages before slitting the throat of 85-year-old Father Jacques Hamel. French police shot and killed both attackers and rescued 3 people inside the church. One of the nuns present says they forced the worshippers to get on their knees. Sister Danielle says the priest was forced to the ground before his throat was slit. She says the attackers then recorded some sort of a sermon around the altar in Arabic. Vatican officials call it barbaric.
This took place actually during the Mass. The Mass is it's a sacred event in a sacred time, which makes this event all the worse.
The president of the French bishops says the church is shocked and revolted. In a statement, Archbishop George Pointier said the Catholic Church has no other arms besides prayer and fraternity between men. Meanwhile, the investigation continues. A local Muslim leader says one of the men who attended the church was on the police's radar and had traveled to Turkey. French police have made one arrest in connection. France has been on high alert after an attack in Nice less than 2 weeks ago when a terrorist drove a truck into hundreds of people, killing 84. President Hollande is vowing to win his country's war against terrorism. In a televised address to the nation today, he said, "To attack a church, kill a priest, is to profane the Republic." French prosecutors have identified 19-year-old Adel Kermiche as one of the attackers. They say he was arrested in Germany last year for trying to join extremists in Syria using his brother's ID. He had been wearing an electronic surveillance bracelet. Brian.
Thank you, Wyatt. And Pope Francis condemns in the strongest terms that church attack in France. Alan Holdren, Rome Bureau Chief for EWTN's Catholic News Agency, is with us. Alan, the Holy Father sent a telegram. What did he say?
Well, Brian, he said that he was particularly upset that this attack took place in a place of worship, in a church, during the celebration of the Mass. He implored God's peace on the world, and he asked that the Lord inspire thoughts of fraternity and reconciliation. The Vatican spokesman, Father Federico Lombardi, said that this, being the latest in a series of attacks in Europe this week, really is upsetting people, and he says it brings a lot of pain and worry.
This was a small church in Normandy, France, but it happened, as you said, during the sacrifice of the Mass. This could be seen as an attack on the church itself. Is anyone at the Vatican speaking to that?
We're not hearing any word from the Vatican connecting the attacks to an attack on the greater church at this point. But there was word from a Catholic organization, an international organization called Aid to the Church in Need, the local Italian branch. They were connecting this to an attack, an anti-Christian attack, they said, very clear example of that, and also a clear attack against religious freedom. They said they made a parallel between Europe at this point and the Middle East if there is no united front to counter these attacks, these terrorist attacks here in Europe.
Alan, as you leave with the Pope tomorrow for Poland and World Youth Day, what are you seeing in the way of security?
Well, here in Rome, we've got security as usual. It's top at this point. We've got military at every single metro stop. We've got St. Peter's is surrounded at all times by police and military, providing security here, both for the Jubilee and just general security for the Pope and the city. I was in contact with the organizers up at World Youth Day in Krakow. They said they have 20,000 military security personnel there on the streets of Krakow. They called it probably the most safe city in all of Europe today.
We pray for the safety of the Holy Father and the pilgrims. Alan Holdren, thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Al-Shabaab terrorists claim responsibility for 2 suicide bombings in Somalia. Cars laden with explosives blew up outside the United Nations Mine Action Service offices and a Somali army checkpoint in Mogadishu. Police say 13 people were killed in the 2 blasts near the Mogadishu airport, including 7 guards. In Japan's deadliest mass killing in decades, a young man stabs 19 mentally disabled people to death. It happened in a facility near Tokyo where the attacker used to work before being fired. 26-year-old Satoshi Umatsu sent a letter to Parliament months ago warning of the attack, saying all disabled people should be put to death. 25 patients were wounded, 20 of them seriously. The suspect calmly turned himself in about 2 hours after that attack. Hillary Clinton making history today as the first female nominee of a major political party. Lauren Ashburn begins our team coverage from the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia. Lauren?
Roll call will be about happening very soon. Hillary Clinton could receive the nomination if Bernie Sanders supporters don't roil the nomination process. They were just cheering Bernie, Bernie, as he was also nominated. Roll call will come next. Delegates will get to the largely symbolic chance to vote for Bernie. And day 2 of the convention is bringing more of the same division we have seen since Sunday. Later in the program, we're going to talk about the immigration and abortion platforms adopted last night. But first, let's take a look as the big stars took to the stage last night, hoping to solidify the Bernie believers behind Clinton. This video is from an event this morning when Clinton and Sanders supporters from Texas were trying to drown each other out. It was a different story last night when high-wattage speakers on stage went to bat for Clinton, trying to bring this party together. First Lady Michelle Obama electrified the crowd and reiterated the significance of this election.
Because of Hillary Clinton, my daughters and all our sons and daughters now take for granted that a woman can be president of the United States.
The First Lady making a foray into partisan politics to knock Donald Trump without mentioning his name.
When you have the nuclear codes at your fingertips and the military in your command, you can't make snap decisions. You can't have a thin skin or a tendency to lash out.
Deafening cheers and a 3-minute standing ovation welcomed Bernie Sanders to the stage. Perhaps the most important political moment of the convention so far, Sanders urged his supporters to vote for his one-time rival, Hillary Clinton.
Hillary Clinton will make an outstanding president, and I am proud to stand with her.
He comforted disappointed delegates, many crying in the crowd, shouting for their nominee and interrupting speeches with loud anti-Clinton boos.
To the Bernie or bust people, you're being ridiculous.
And these Bernie or bust people are very loud behind me. Now, Donald Trump received a bump in the polls after his convention last week. He returned to the campaign trail today in Charlotte, North Carolina, where he continued to attack Hillary Clinton.
We can't fix a rigged system by electing the people who rigged it in the first place.
Trump and his running mate Mike Pence both spoke at the Veterans of Foreign Wars convention this morning. Trump says, quote, "We need to fix the VA to honor our commitment to veterans." Tim Carney is a senior political columnist for the Washington Examiner. Tim, welcome back.
Thank you.
This is crazy behind us, isn't it?
It's pretty raucous. The Bernie support is staying very strong.
They certainly are. What did you make of last night's speeches? Did you think it went far enough to quell the Bernie brigade?
Well, Michelle Obama was able to mention Hillary Clinton without incurring the loud boos that the previous speakers did, in part because of her speaking style, because it was an amazing speech. So that did a little to bridge the gap. But there's a whole spectrum among the Bernie brigade, from those who are happy with Hillary to those who are resigned to Hillary to those who are never Hillary. And so those guys, I don't think anything will quell that.
Nothing is going to do that. Earlier today, Hillary Clinton sent out an email to all of her supporters saying, I'm not going to tell you to focus too much on one poll, but I'm going to point it out because it's part of a broader trend. Poll after poll is showing that Trump has been eating away at our lead. Now, we've talked about polls and how conventional wisdom says that polls during events like this don't really matter, but she's worried.
Well, yes, because she sees that Trump is actually hitting a ceiling of 44% or so, but Hillary is dropping far below that. So her negativity is her real problem, and so that's what she's trying to fix this week. That's why you see efforts to humanize it. They talk about how she likes to eat chicken wings. They'll show her being a loving grandmother. All these things, because that's her problem. People see her as a conniving politician, where they don't like Trump, but they don't like Hillary either. So if you see him go above 45%, I'll be shocked. It's a question of where she is in the polls.
Where she goes down to. Tonight is the 10th DNC convention Bill Clinton will address. What is going to make tonight different? What does he have to do?
Well, he actually has a divided party in front of him that he's really trying to deal with. In 2012, he was dealing with a rough economy, a lot of headwinds, facing Obama, a couple polls going Romney's way, but it was at least a united but dispirited party. This time, it's a truly divided party. There will be 10% of this room or more that really doesn't want to vote for Hillary, and another 10 or 20 that is just going to hold their nose, and he's got to get them excited. The best way for Democrats usually to do that is to attack Trump in this case. Is he going to try to do it by getting people excited about Hillary, maybe through nostalgia getting them excited about the Bill Clinton administration? But uniting a really divided party is not an easy task, and it's harder than his previous jobs.
Okay, great. Tim Carney with the Washington Examiner, thank you so much for joining us.
Coming up, pro-life activists celebrate a legal victory as a case against them is thrown out. And pro-abortion platform, how the Democratic Party continues to move further away from Catholic teaching on life. Today, July 26, is the Feast of Saints Anne and Joachim. They're traditionally honored as the parents of Mary, the grandparents of Jesus. Thank you for joining us on this special evening. I'm Brian Patrick. A Texas judge dismisses the last remaining charge against pro-life activists who went undercover to expose Planned Parenthood. The charge of tampering with government records against David Daleiden and Sandra Merritt is now dropped. Prosecutors had charged Daleiden and Merritt with using fake driver's licenses in their dealings with Planned Parenthood. The videos they created allege Planned Parenthood illegally sells the body parts of aborted babies to researchers for profit. Daleiden's attorney, Peter Breen of the Thomas More Society, released this statement today. Today's dismissal in Houston is a huge win for the First Amendment rights of undercover journalists. This meritless and retaliatory prosecution should never have been brought. Planned Parenthood did wrong here, not David Daleiden. The abortion issue fuels more party discord at the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia. Our political director, Lauren Ashburn, continues our team coverage tonight.
Brian, abortion and immigration are a large part of the Democrats' platform, which was passed last night. And we're going to dig into both of them. But first, immigration. Actress Eva Longoria spoke here yesterday saying, "My family never crossed the border crossed us." And also speaking last night, a 28-year-old illegal, undocumented immigrant. Now, this year's Democratic Party platform says we need to urgently fix our broken immigration system, which tears families apart, keeps workers in the shadows, and creates a path to citizenship for law-abiding families who are here. Welcome to the program, Representative Henry Cuellar.
Thank you so much.
So we just talked about a little bit of what the platform says. It also says that there's a plan to repeal the 10-year permanent bars. What does that mean?
Well, looking at the platform, it's a very progressive platform on immigration. That particular section says that if you have some sort of violation, and a permanent violation could be a serious drug situation or a smuggling situation, they're saying that they want to eliminate all that and anybody can come in, and with all due respect, I disagree with that. I think we need to have some bars. Maybe we need to review them. But to eliminate, especially the permanent bars, I think that would just mean an open border.
Tell me what you think needs to be done and what you have been doing in your district.
Well, certainly I support immigration, full immigration reform. One of the things I've been working on in appropriations is last year we were able to get 55 new immigration judges because there's such a backlog. Right now there's over 500,000 cases backlog. That means 2019, maybe even further, people that are not going to get their day in court. This year we added money. I added money for another 25 new judges. So we're adding judges so people can have their day in court.
And is that more important than border security? And also, as a Catholic, how do you balance border security with welcoming our neighbor?
Yeah. Well, first of all, if we have full comprehensive immigration reform, you can have three things. One, smart border security, sensible border security, no wall, but having the right balance of people and personnel and technology on the border. And I live in the border. Number two, you got to have a guest worker plan that works. And number three, what do we do about the 11, 12 million undocumented persons? And whether we do a pathway or legalize those people, that's what we need to do. And that's how you can find a balance as a Catholic, where you can have border security, but at the same time, treat people with respect and dignity.
Okay. Representative Henry Cuellar of Texas, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And we're going to turn now to the Democratic abortion platform. Last night we saw Cecile Richards sit next to former President Bill Clinton. And now Jason Calvi is going to report about that report on abortion from the floor.
Bernie Sanders calls the platform the most progressive in Democratic Party history. Republican leaders tell me the leftward turn of their rivals is shocking. The 2016 Democratic platform supports the continued funding of Planned Parenthood. It also seeks to overturn most protections for the unborn, including by repealing the Hyde Amendment. That part of U.S. law bans taxpayer funding of abortion and was first passed in 1976. Republicans say that's extreme.
For years, we've had an agreement, both Republicans and Democrats, that we wouldn't be using taxpayer money to fund abortions. Even, fairly liberal Democrats understood that that wasn't a good idea. Now Democrats are talking about rolling that back and allowing taxpayer dollars to be used to pay for abortion.
It's the latest move from a party that defends abortion as a woman's right. But some pro-life Democrats are trying to make their voices heard.
When they don't listen to people like us, is we become a minority party. If you look at the House of Representatives, we have 188 members. That's the smallest that we've been since decades. And so the only way to have a majority is to be the big tent and have pro-life Democrats in the party.
Democrats for Life paid for this billboard. It cites a CNN poll which says 1/3 of Democrats self-identify as pro-life. The group is challenging their party to change course or lose. They say since 2008, Democrats have lost 69 House seats, 13 Senate seats, 11 governorships, and 30 state chambers.
I think there's a lot of soul searching right now and saying, okay, look at these numbers across the country. How do we rebuild?
Previous Democratic Party platforms have said abortion should be safe, legal, and rare. This one cuts the word rare and says abortion as reproductive health is core to women's, men's, and young people's health and well-being. Here at the DNC, Jason Calvi, EWTN News Nightly.
Jason, thank you very much. Joining us now to explore the abortion platform in depth is Dr. Matthew Bunson, a theologian, historian, and EWTN contributor. Welcome back to the program.
Good to be with you.
The platform, it also calls for federal taxpayer funding of abortion on demand, and it is in very stark contrast to the conservative platform we saw, which banned late-term dismemberment abortions from a historical perspective. Walk us through why this is such a radical change and a radical difference from the other party.
Yeah, well, Bill Clinton's one of the speakers tonight. The last time he ran for president, his platform in 1996 had one reference to abortion. The 2016 platform for the Democrats has 19 references to abortion. That itself gives us an idea of the seriousness of this issue for them. The other aspect, too, is that in that 96 platform, there was specific reference to conscience. You will not find that word in the Democratic platform in 2016.
Because abortion plays such a prominent part in the platform, what does that say about the Democrats' priorities both here and abroad?
Yeah, well, here and abroad, they're trying to get rid of, they propose in this platform to get rid of both the Helms Amendment, which bans taxpayer funds for abortions overseas, and the Hyde Amendment, which bans taxpayer funds in the U.S. What it's telling us is that they want abortion to be one of the key priorities for their foreign policy. This is what Pope Francis refers to when he uses the term ideological colonialism.
Ideological colonialism. We're going to have to leave it there. Dr. Matthew Bunson, EWTN senior contributor, thank you so much for joining us.
Always good to be with you.
Up next, Christians from Syria join pilgrims from around the globe for World Youth Day in Poland. And Lauren Ashburn takes us back to the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia. On Tuesday, the 26th of July, thanks for joining us. I'm Brian Patrick. World Youth Day 2016 begins in Krakow. Christians from war-torn Syria journey to Poland, joining pilgrims from around the world. Carolina Al-Raheb of Homs says she wants the world to be united in love. She is with a group from Syria scheduled to sing during Sunday's papal mass. The Holy Father arrives in Poland tomorrow. The Democratic National Convention draws attention from both sides of the political aisle. Lauren Ashburn continues our coverage from Philadelphia tonight. Lauren?
Joining me now is Matt Schlapp from the American Conservative Union and Mercedes Schlapp, Republican strategist, one of my favorite Catholic couples. Welcome to the show.
Great to be with you.
From a Catholic perspective, what did the two of you make of the DNC convention so far? Matt?
From a Catholic perspective, I have to say it's kind of sad 4 years ago that when they literally on national television removed any mention of God from the platform. And I think about my mom. She was a Catholic Democrat growing up in New York, and the party is in a much different place on these cultural issues than it was then.
Mercedes, anything strike you?
Well, I think that there's a sense that there is really no home for Catholics or Christians here in the Democratic National Convention. There was a sign around a billboard that says, we are the pro-life Catholics, Democrats. We should be part of this big tent, and I don't think that it doesn't seem that there's any room for them here in the DNC.
Especially because I haven't, and I'm wondering if you have, heard a lot of discussion about faith. Have you?
No, I really haven't. I think the Republicans actually tried very hard. They had several pastors speak from the main stage. I don't think Donald Trump seems like any particularly religious person, but there was a real attempt to understand that that's part of the coalition and to genuflect to these voters and to say we need you on the team. Here, it's almost the opposite, where if you hold those traditional cultural issues, that you hear what's happening on the stage, it's hard for people like that, I think, to see if they have a home here.
Right, and religion has been put in the back seat. So they're talking about, obviously, the LGBT rights. They talk about just love in general as a policy here in the DNC, but where is the love for the Catholics and the Christians and for those religiously persecuted? We saw that there was no mention of ISIS or terrorism last night, and then what do we see today in France?
A priest who is killed.
Attack by ISIS.
Look, this is a wake-up call. This is the future. If you are going to stand up for your faith overseas, and I fear even here that there's going to be more and more persecution, it's really a wake-up call, I hope, to both parties. This is something I hope that as Americans we can stand up together, Republican, Democrat, Independent, and say, you know what, in America you can practice your faith.
Quickly, Mercedes, as a strategist, has this convention been successful, do you think?
Well, I think they had a very strong lineup last night. I think they're trying to get the progressives out of the way early on Monday. We'll see how Bill Clinton does tonight. The big speech is going to be President Barack Obama. I think the less you see of Hillary Clinton, the better it is for Hillary Clinton. So maybe they should stop with the Barack Obamas after the Barack Obama speech.
Okay. Matt and Mercedes Schlapp, thank you so much for joining us.
Great.
Later tonight, we are going to meet many mothers, Brian, who have lost children in clashes with police. Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Tamir Rice, as well as hearing from Jimmy Carter, Lena Dunham, and Nancy Pelosi. And we will see you here tomorrow. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Lauren Ashburn and our team in Philadelphia. For the EWTN News Nightly team here in Washington as well, I'm Brian Patrick. We're going to leave you tonight with some Philadelphia landmarks that make it such an iconic American city. Good night. God bless you.